I'd like for everyone to think for a moment about the value of human life. And does one person's life have any more value than another person's? The current fee-for-service healthcare system rations out care based on the patient's ability to pay. I believe this is unethical. It is criminal. 95% of the country is still functioning on this fee-for-service model. I believe everyone should be treated the same. Everyone should have access to primary care regardless of their ability to pay.
Hi, I'm Dr. Faisel Syed. Welcome to another episode of Faisel and Friends. We're here because we believe everyone deserves access to quality primary care, and ChenMed needs physicians to take care of them. Tonight's topic is physician leadership. My co-host and moderator of the chat is Dr. Dan McCarter. Welcome, Dr. Dan.
Hey, Faisel, it's great to be here with you.
How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. I'm looking forward to this discussion. It's just imperative that primary care physicians take leadership of healthcare, and I'm so excited with our guest this evening.
Yeah, it's a special guest and a special friend, dear friend. Tonight's topic is a special one. You know, we all know that we must transition from our current fee-for-service system to a fully capitated one that's based on value and not on volume. And that transition must be physician-led. You know, it certainly is at ChenMed. And here with us tonight, we've got our very special friend, Dr. Nehal Gheewala, joining us. Nehal, how are you?
Good. Doing well. Happy to be back. Good to see both of you.
You know, your story is an awesome story, and I'd love to hear about where you grew up and how you got started on your journey.
Yeah, I mean, this is it's a long one, but I'm a Tampa, Florida native. I'm a Floridian, and I grew up actually in Largo, Florida. So very very humble beginnings out in Largo in Pinellas County. Growing up in a family, we've had other people who are physicians or were in healthcare, but my parents were not. I have an older brother who had some aspirations of going into healthcare, but we're 4 years apart. So, we grew up together, but then, after he had went to college, there's that time of your life, where you feel like, are you on your own? You're really looking at things through a completely different lens. It's just so different. I really relied on my parents, to be honest. They really guided me, helped me, kind of try to find what my interests were. But we came down to at the time, that time in like high school when they say, it's time to go volunteer, you got to get some hours in, everyone has to do their community service. And my dad said, well, why don't you go and work with seniors? Why don't you? And that was actually the first time I worked with seniors, was when I was in like ninth grade. And at a local hospital, I didn't go and work in like ICU. I didn't go work on the medical floors. I worked in rehab, and I didn't work with doctors. I worked with occupational therapists. So the odd thing was that most people, when they go into medicine or they want to go into medicine, they go, oh, I'm gonna go work with the doctors. I'm gonna go work with the ICU doctor. I'm gonna go work with the surgeon. You actually learn the most in the roles about when you're learning about people. You learn the most when you have the most patient-facing time. And the truth is, especially in a fee-for-service world, doctors just don't have much patient-facing time. But occupational therapists sure do. They spend a lot of time with their patients. It was a lot. I would literally sit with the patients. You talk with them. You're helping them with their adaptations, depending on what they had in rehab. But I would spend time with them getting water, playing games, talking to them about where they're from. So that was actually my first exposure to healthcare, was in that setting. And then I worked with a community practice doctor after that. But I first learned how to work with people. And that led me down a road, where I started looking into these dual, programs where it combines undergrad and medical school. And I went to Nova Southeastern University in Fort Lauderdale. I was accepted, but I did that volunteer experience for 4 years. And that was the first step into getting into medicine, was really, go join a program and I take my interest and see if they flourish. And when I was an undergrad, there was many times where I said, am I still grounded? Is this what I wanted to do? I was surrounded by other people who are in the program. They're like, I want to be a surgeon. That's how you save people's lives. I want to do a hip replacement or a knee replacement so that person can walk again. And these are like awesome, noble professions. I mean, we need them,
Sure.
Surgeons do great for us, but things really started to change when I got into medical school. And actually in between, I did a little healthcare policy experience with Senator Mel Martinez at his DC office, and really worked on the Senate Special Aging. Sat in on the Senate Special Committee on Aging. So learning at that level what the conversations were about, Florida constituents, issues in Florida with seniors, about nursing care issues. And then I transitioned through medical school. And then, when you get to that point where like, what do I want to do? I settled on primary care. It wasn't because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew who I wanted to work with. I've always loved working with seniors. And then that led to a career in internal medicine, and then a fellowship in geriatrics, and then coming to practice value-based care, where I think, things really matter. But along the way, this entire journey was and I've had so many mentors, so many great people, from university to like undergrad and medical school. And then you look at residency leaders and fellowship leaders and all the physicians and nurses that I work with that really all mentored me to be who I am. Every step was a step in leadership. And even while I've been here with ChenMed, there have been multiple steps from when I started as a geriatrician to where I'm at now.
Wow. And you just finished 3 years with the company. You just finished your third year.
Yeah, 3 years with ChenMed. Yeah, so it's been time really flies by, right?
And how many jobs have you had?
This is not the fourth one. There's a fourth promotion since being with Chen.
Thank God it's with the same company. It'd be a problem if it was with different companies.
Yeah, I mean, this is, when you look at when physicians go, and, I feel like leadership is in every physician's DNA. It just gets lost along the way because, we do things with our blinders on. I want to fix that knee and I'm just going to fix and fix, or I want to fix that blood pressure. I'm going to fix and fix and fix. But you're so fixated on that, but you're not looking at the system. You're not looking at the bigger issues. And you might not have time. And the passion's there, but it gets lost along the way. And, when you move into a company, this is everyone's dream. When you join a group, one day I would like to say, 5 years, 10 years from now, I'm doing XYZ right here in the same place. I just had more opportunity. But unfortunately, when doctors go places, their brilliance can get capped. Sometimes it's a circumstantial thing, things happen. And then sometimes it's just, it just doesn't happen. Maybe they don't have the leadership around them to help bring them up, because it takes a good leader to make leaders, right? You're not, it's in the DNA, but it needs to be fostered. Someone needs to take a chance on you, right? And they have to take a leap of faith so you can take a leap of faith. And I think that's where the biggest differences have happened to me in my life, and both of you as well. I mean, I don't think any of us would be doing what we're doing if we didn't take a leap of faith, but someone else didn't do that with us.
Yeah, there's so many times I kind of pinch myself thinking, really, is all this really happening? When I went to medical school, we're so focused on learning all the basics with the physiology, the pathophysiology, pharmacology, and you study. And then you come out into the world and suddenly the part of our minds, the social part of our minds, that we kind of suppressed to get to where we needed to get to. Suddenly, when you get out in the world, you got to reignite that. I had a conversation with my 13-year-old, my oldest son. He said, "Daddy, do you like watching sports?" And I thought, there was a time that I used to really enjoy doing that stuff. But this path, this journey happened, and now here I am at 42, getting back into things that I used to really enjoy 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's funny how things work out like that. You might have to revisit stuff, but I want to make sure we hit this point home, and I make sure I say it, is that to be a leader and to succeed does not come with a lot of failure. There's a lot of humbling in that process. There's a lot of failure in the process. You may try something, it may not work out. That has happened many times to me. It continues to happen. Things that you expect things to work out a certain way, they don't. But I think, when you zoom out, what matters is that you're able to get back on the horse and keep riding. You're able to find another way to innovate. And when physicians are able to do this, they can really do great things. Anybody in healthcare. Now, when I say physicians, I mean, it could be nurse practitioners, physician's assistants, our nurses, they do awesome things, but you have to give them bandwidth too. And somebody, again, has to take that leap of faith with them. They have to want to do it. And then there has to be a will, right? And a skill, right? So it's tied with that. So someone has to go with you in that.
Yeah, but there was something that was different about you. You came on board. You definitely had something different about yourself. I remember when you started the center, before you knew it, we had all these patients that were coming, and you really built that center. That was an incredible transition. You had just finished your fellowship training. You hit the ground running, and you were leading doctors, teams of, the nurses, the medical assistants, the front desk staff. I mean, you had something different in you.
Yeah. I mean, this is, again, it's funny you mentioned that. So just so everybody knows, Faisel and I we were colleagues in Tampa. So Faisel was my first mentor. And I remember when I had interviewed, he came and whispered into my ear afterwards, gave me a handshake, and he said, I think you'll really like it here. I think you'll fit in. I remember, and that one of the last things I walked out with that interview, and I said, that's interesting. No one's ever really kind of leaned in and said, hey, and then he also even offered, like, here's my phone number, call me for anything, like most people do. But he picked up the phone, we talked. And when I came, I remember you and I, we got along very well, but you helped me a lot. You were the first person who invested in me, because here at ChenMed, we spend a lot of time training our docs. And I don't know if everybody knows, but when you're doing a lot of computer training, they want you to also work under a physician for a little bit to kind of learn the ropes. So Dr. Syed here was the first person I worked under, but you invested a lot in me, right? And things are not always what we expect it to be. I was expecting to be at a center with a doctor, and me and that doctor were going to run it, but due to some circumstances, it actually was just me. But when you look at that, you're like, this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity to take all this training, right? It's like you expected to kind of have some buffer, but I had Faisel nearby. So I looked at this and said, okay, I can run this place. I can run the center. I just have to try. I have to work really hard. And there were many days that, you felt like, am I failing at this? But you just keep going. You keep going. You see the patients, you take care of them, you communicate, you network. And at the end of the day, things really worked out. That was probably one of the biggest blessings is having a good mentor, but also I took that leap of faith and said, I'm really going to try. I have the skills. It comes down to will. The skills was years and years of training, but I've had a lot of good mentors along the way that if it wasn't, you, Faisel, and it was somebody else, maybe it was Dr. McCarter, or maybe there was nobody. All my previous mentors would have said, you can figure this out. You can handle the pressure. Just keep going.
And you went from joining us as a primary care doctor, became a doctor leader, became a medical director, became associate chief medical officer, and now you're ChenMed's national director of growth.
Yeah, I think things sure do change, right? And it's interesting because you have national directors doing all kinds of things in medicine, but you rarely find a physician leading growth, especially for a company like ours. So it was an opportunity that came about while I was in Tampa, really still working with other doctors, building a center, leading other doctors, and really came about when I started looking into how we can grow to be even bigger. And there was no template for this. This was just, well, I'm going to try, and I'm going to get on the community. I'm going to network. I'm going to meet some people, and I'm going to see where this goes. But, part of this was somebody else invested in me. I had some other few people in our group that invested from our sales team. Francisco was one of them. Francisco.
Yeah.
And I remember one day I said, like, hey, I was a little frustrated. I was like, I really want to grow. I really want this center to be much bigger. I think we could be really much bigger and better. Can you tell me what you do? And then I came up with a few ideas, and me and him refined the process, and then it expanded and expanded and expanded, and it led me to a national role where I'm able to teach other clinicians to do this across the country at all of our centers, but really foster a lot of relationships and grow other leaders.
So, it's interesting. You're describing things that I've heard Chris Chen, our CEO, talk about, and he will tell the new doctors, be very cautious before you say something's not my problem, because whoever's problem it is going to be the leader. So be careful before you give away your problems. And it doesn't mean you can't use your team to help solve them, but you're describing exactly that. You're seeing opportunities out of problems, but you're not trying to say this isn't my problem. You're saying how can I handle it? And I think you just described that so beautifully.
Thank you. It's one of those things. Wouldn't you want, if you have an issue, someone to just to say, I'm going to try. I'm really going to try to help you. Imagine if that was your doctor, but imagine if that was your colleague and you could look to them and they say, let me think about it. And I really think I could try to do something here, or I will try my best. And they actually come back with something. That's always been my goal, is that, when I was a resident, when I was a fellow, even before that, if somebody gave me a task or said, hey, go see this patient, yeah, I would try to do everything I could. And I would come back. My goal every time was come back with more. If they asked if everybody around you saying, oh, well, we don't know, come back and say, well, I think I know something. I don't know if this is the answer, but this can kind of lead us down a path. And I think that, especially when it comes to problems are usually shared. For somebody to say, oh, it's not my problem, that's there's a mindset to this. You're not going to get anywhere with that mindset saying, oh, it's not my problem, or let somebody else deal with it. I've never been like that. And the people who trained me would never let me be like that. I think that was a lot of it too. My parents would never let me be like that. My wife won't let me be like that. If I ever say like, I can't do it, which I don't, someone's going to jump in and say, yes, you can. They're gonna push me, and they're gonna take that leap of faith with me.
So much of just influencing people, it starts with it being able to believe in it ourselves, and especially when we pursue medicine. You're pursuing medicine, and you think, anything outside of the doctoring is not. Oh, no. This is for somebody else to be doing, when we're doing this sort of thing that we're doing right now. And, oh no, this is a marketing sort of thing, or this is something that recruiting should be doing, or this is something that finance ought to be doing. And then here, I think once you understand the pathophysiology, it's not too hard for us to really start to dabble in and and get into conversations with people. Oh yeah, sure, we can talk about numbers too. We happen to know pathophysiology, and we're learning numbers.
Can I tell you this? 10 years ago, did you think 3 doctors would be on a podcast and that people would be listening? I mean, come on. This is innovation. This is in DNA, people's DNA. Some people just really, they want to do other things, and sometimes that, I have 3 points that I think about all the time, and I want to share them. This
Sure.
it's exciting, and I think that you guys would relate. But the first thing is stepping outside of your comfort zone. I think that is like one of the best things you could ever do for yourself. When somebody shies away from a problem or shies away from an opportunity, they should think not twice. They should think 10 times. Am I doing the right thing? Just walking away from this. That might be the easy road at the moment, but where's that going to take you? It's okay to take that leap of faith. And we don't know what we don't know until you know it, right? Like we just don't know. I mean, think about the things that you know now. Dr. McCarter, think about this. When you started your training to where you are now, did you think you would be doing what you're doing right now?
Don't say that. I don't want him to have second thoughts and say, what am I doing in my life?
But I mean, he's doing so well. I mean, like, look at what he couldn't have dreamt of this. He couldn't have dreamt, because one day he realized, I don't know what I know until I know it. So he just keeps going. He's hungry, and I'm sure you had fears, right?
Absolutely. I always thought I would be back in the little town I grew up in, which would have been fine. There was nothing wrong with that. But every time somebody would come along and say, "Do you want to try this?" And it's interesting. When I used to mentor medical students, I used to say, anytime anybody asks you if you want to try something, the answer is yes. Even if you don't know how to do it, the answer is yes, and get them to teach you on the way to the bedside, so you get experience learning how to do that. So I guess I've always just carried that on. And when somebody asks my opinion or asks me if I wanted to do something, sure, I'll give it a try. So anyway, it generally works out. Sometimes in the middle of it, you wonder how it's going to work out, though.
Do you guys remember the first time you put a central line in? Because I do. I remember the first time I put a central line in, and the patient was crashing. We were in the ICU, and the INR is 5.
Oh.
And I'm like, this is my first. This is the first time I'm sticking somebody. And I remember and at the time, it was actually the middle of the night. The attending, still, on the way, but not in the building. And it was just me and the senior. And the attending's on the phone. He's like, I'm on the way, but you guys, do this, and you guys know what to do. And my senior's like, there's only one way you're going to learn. You do it. You've seen plenty of them. Remember, we all know see one, do one, teach one, right? I hadn't gotten to the teach one yet. I got to do one first. And I can tell you that that central line, I nailed it. But I can tell you I was, sweating bullets, because, you're worried about the patient. You're worried about making a mistake.
Sure.
Worried about dropping a lung. Am I going to push this needle too far? Is my angle right? But when you think about this, I'm not going by landmarks. I'm going by ultrasound. I know what I know, and I don't know what I don't know until I know it. So I better get going, because this patient's blood pressure is going down, and their INR is 5, but everything worked out fine. But I remember that very vividly, like the kit where everything was, flushing the lines. I remember everything. And I made sure I pulled that guide wire out.
So we have a question from Roxanne, who's asking, how can you promote the role of NPs and family practice into more involved roles, even management and training for other NPs and PAs? I heard a leadership consultant once say he was actually also a conductor of an orchestra, and he would say you can lead from any chair. But what are your thoughts about that, Nehal?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, everything kind of comes down to will and skill. That's how I felt about everything. It doesn't matter who they are, if they have the skills, but if they have more will than anything, you can do it. You can teach skills if somebody has the will, right? I mean, Dr. Ricardo, you've trained so many doctors, and I'm sure you knew that sometimes it wasn't the one who aced the test. It was the one who was willing to try harder and harder and harder. That was the one who always succeeded. And when it comes to our nurse practitioners and PAs, I mean, I know so many that just wonderful people they work very hard, and they're hungry, and they, just like everybody else, they have fears. You go to work, you don't know what's going to happen.
Sure.
Especially when you're taking care of people, but it's about taking those fears and kind of pushing them to the side and going with what you know. Go with your gut, and you have to trust yourself. And if you don't know, trust yourself in knowing that you know where to go for the resource, for the answer, for the next step. I think that's super key, is that when you don't know, just ask for help. And some people shy away from that. They're like, well, I'm going to do this myself. I think that, no good leader has lived in a silo, and living in a silo is just, it doesn't foster good relationships. It doesn't foster good thoughts. And eventually you will plateau. So, I mean, that would be my biggest advice to nurse practitioners and physician assistants is stay hungry.
Well, and I think you're a good example. I mean, you didn't wait to get named medical director before you started leading the center, right?
Right.
You
No.
you didn't say it's not my job, it's not my problem. If you want me to do it, give me the title. You saw a problem, you started addressing it, and somebody said, "Hey, this
Yes.
guy's really good. We need to get him to keep doing this and do even more." So, right, and that's the way I would describe part of your career path so far.
Yeah, and that's actually how it's been every time. It's literally been that is like I start doing something and I just keep doing it and doing it and doing it, and that's how I feel about work in general. Is just there's a task in front of you, in front of me, in front of anybody, just get it done. Let's just get it done and move on. And the more you can get done, the more things you can accomplish, and the more you can do for people. I think you're made with two arms and two legs, and they're made to move. They're not static. I don't like sitting around too long. It's a break here and there, and then let's keep going. Let's keep moving. And I think that leads me to my next step is, the thing in my head is just networking. I think that's super important. At every step of the way, getting to know people, knowing them for who they are as a person, and talking to someone in their interests, talking to someone on their level of interest and what they want to talk about, that has been huge, because it doesn't matter who they are. You will learn something from someone. You can just by listening to them. And I mean, I know you guys know Dale Carnegie. It's an old book that he wrote, but in that is 6 ways to get people to like you. And that has been, I think, one of the biggest things about networking is just learn about the other person. Don't talk about yourself. Talk about them.
I'd like to take a quick pause, Dr. Dan. If we could take a quick pause for 30 seconds, 20 seconds, sorry, and then we'll come back. I want to wrap up the conversation with Nehal, but I also want to talk about some of the amazing things he did before he took on the role. And it'll be perfect timing because the commercial talks about the growth, our growth trajectory, and where we're opening. So let's do that.
ChenMed honors seniors with affordable, top-of-the-line care, and we're expanding. We're opening 25 new centers this year, including centers in 2 new cities, Houston and Detroit. Join us as we bring better healthcare to more seniors. Head to chenmed.com/physicians for more information.
And we're back. See? Told you. It's 20 seconds. So Nehal, before you took on this new role, you were doing amazing things with brokers and with networking. I mean, at one point, there was 1 month where you ended up connecting with a ridiculous number of brokers. So I want to talk a little bit about that, and now, like, where you see ChenMed is at now, and how you're going to help scale this vision with the doctors in our different markets.
Yeah. So, I mean, this kind of backpedals to when I was a medical director, but, part of our job role is focusing on growth, making sure that, we're growing the center, because, we don't want to stay static. People move on in life, and patients move on, and you always want to keep growing and growing. There was a part, though, of in my time there, that where things really started to plateau. And during the pandemic, we were really, very worried about the trajectory. Like, well, what are we going to do? Because the things that we were doing, we couldn't do because, there were restrictions. So I spent a lot of time getting to know my community. That's really what it boils down to. Getting to know the people that work in my community, the people who have worked with me in my community, worked with our organization. And then I started rolling up my sleeves and doing things safely, but standing besides them and really finding a way through all of it, helping them innovate. Because, in our agents and brokers, the people that work in our community, they spend a lot of time finding patients, but they spend a lot of time doing community work too. So I looked at it as, well, why can't I just spend some time with them and support them? And that's actually where I was just speaking about networking. That's really where things really took off, is forming those relationships, and and then maintaining those relationships, because it turns out, these people who I didn't know before, they're just wonderful people. I got to get to know every single one of them, exchanging phone numbers, constantly communicating. And when you look at this, and you're like, this is just basic communication, but it works. It works if you try, right? And that's what set me up for all the hyper growth that we saw, not just in Tampa, but now that we're seeing throughout the company, and teaching other physicians how to do this, how to engage their community partners, love on their community partners, and make sure that they're really following through on their commitments. Because I think that's a lot of it. No matter what you're doing, you could be an engineer, you could be an astronaut, a firefighter. Imagine calling 911 and they don't follow through on their commitment.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing. If somebody calls our offices, if somebody calls my cell phone number and they're one of our community partners, or they want to be a community partner, my job is to listen to them and follow through.
Well, Nehal, you had a couple points on leadership that you wanted to make. I wanted to be able to let you make your final point, and then we should wrap things up. We're trying to keep them here for a half an hour, as always. We're always running a little bit over.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I think the last step, and this ties back into nurse practitioners, PAs, physicians, could be anybody. It could be a medical student. It could be
Sure.
absolutely anybody. Empower them. Empower them to make the right decisions themselves. That's the key. Because someone did that with me at multiple stages, and it gets to a point where I don't expect someone to tell you what to do or tell you what the vision is. And after a certain time, you should understand and you should drive yourself, because you should be empowered to do so. So think of it this way. It's like passing the torch along. And if you pass the torch along, they have that. It's like the resources, and that person should feel the energy from that. And then they should feel empowered to taking care of things, to doing the right thing. So like Dr. McCarter was saying, if there's a problem in their lap, they don't just take the problem and throw it to the side. They're empowered to find a solution.
Now, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited for you. I'm so happy for you. In 3 years, you came, you joined as a primary care doctor. You're now the National Director of Growth for ChenMed. You started off in high school volunteering with occupational therapists. I'm not surprised at all with the way that you partner with people and you network with people. I can't wait to see all the wonderful things you're going to do in your career.
Thank you, guys. Thank you both. I appreciate it. And it's an honor to be here. And to anybody listening, just keep going, Remember, there's 3 things: step outside your comfort zone, network, and always remember to empower others, because you never want to be in that silo.
Thank you so much to our audience. Dr. Dan, what a great evening.
Yes, it was. It's always great to, again, just being here with the two of you, and the energy is just fabulous. I see so many primary care physicians beaten down, and it's just a lift to be here and feel the energy this evening.
Well, to our audience, thank you. For more information about tonight's topic, as well as to explore career opportunities with ChenMed, remember, we're on track to open another 500 centers in the next 4 to 5 years. You're talking bringing on another 3,000 plus physicians, along with all the teams to support them. Please visit chenmed.com. We believe access to primary care is a right, not a privilege.